go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Teaching Crypto. This is Mr. FOMO in for AZcrypto today. Lost his voice, so he'll be out for this show, maybe next show. We hope that he gets back soon. We wish him well. Hope to see him back on Friday. Today, we are going to talk about BTC, Voyager, a little bit about altcoins, and then about emotions and how that can get in the way and how it can be emotions just aren't negative emotions. So before we get started, go ahead and hit that like, that subscribe, and click that bell notification so you always get the latest from us at Teaching Crypto. Starting off, BTC yesterday took a little bit of a dip, is starting to recover today, but it looks like it may be headed for that holiday hole we talked about earlier in the month or earlier in the week and last week. And I showed you that spreadsheet that I had, and we saw that the last 4 out of 5 Novembers and Decembers were red months. And so when you take that into account and you see what's going on in the market now, it's not just going to fall off of a cliff like it has before. It may trickle off as more and more people take profits, as more and more people move money from BTC into alts, whatever their plan is. But right now, it looks like BTC is starting to trail off. And if you take that anomalous, like 450% move that it had early on in its career, I think it was 2010, Bitcoin really only is in the positive if you've only invested in Bitcoin starting on November 1st and getting out on November 30th, then and nobody invests like that. But if you did that, or if you were just riding it out through all those Novembers, you're really only up like 5% in those months over Bitcoin's lifespan as we had actual data. And so it's important to realize that these times, traditionally, they may have been mostly green months, but 4 out of the last 5, 80% of the last 5 years have been red months for November and December. So this might be a time for you to look around and see where you can take profits, protect those profits, and then redeploy later, maybe even to Bitcoin as it falls through the holidays, and you can DCA back in and get yourself some cheap sats. And I think that's what a lot of people do is they kind of take their profits, they wait around a little bit for the next dip in the market or for the market to bottom out. And I don't predict that this is going to bottom out that far. I think that maybe we get to 32, maybe 30. There's a lot of indicators like the Bollinger Band that are down there that are saying that we shouldn't go further than that. And take what you will from indicators. AZcrypto and I were talking about that yesterday, and a lot of these indicators aren't very reliable. They're, maybe a little bit more than 50% reliable. So take that for what it's worth. But when we look at BTC over the last 5 years, we're looking at 4 out of the last 5 negative months, red months in November and December. So be careful as we get through these times and be ready to DCA. Make sure you have some dry powder on the side available to do that. Moving on into Voyager. Voyager, and I'll go ahead and show you. We have the link in the description. This is the Voyager court docket that they've recreated on the Invest Voyager website. And you can see on, Monday, they filed a motion to extend time. And so I've read through the document a couple of times. There's nothing specific to FTX in this document. Let me share it. I clicked on it, but I didn't share it. All right, so there's nothing specific to FTX in this document. There's a lot of legal stuff. There's a lot of stuff to kind of mull through. But the gist of it is that the plan administrator is asking for a 180-day extension from November 15th to May 13th out into 2024 to object to claims against Voyager. And so what it seems is he just needs more time to clean this up to make sure that some of these claims aren't fraudulent, to maybe go after some people as well. But this seems to strictly have to do with objecting to certain claims, possibly fraudulent claims, stuff like that. And kind of the odd thing that struck me about this was there's this whole part of this that I won't show you But where he sort of brags about all the things that he's done so far, which is great. I mean, we appreciate that work, but that's your job. Like that's what you're supposed to be doing. So I'm not sure why half of that document was sort of going over what he had done already, maybe just to kind of outline that he's done a lot and it's taken him a long time. And now he's going to need even more time to go through more claims. But the important news there is that it wasn't specific to FTX, but FTX is one of those things that we are objecting to. That's one of those things that we have an issue with. So you would hope it included that, but it doesn't mention that specifically. And there's no news on that docket that shows anything updated about FTX. So we're all still in the dark on this. And if Paul Hage is watching, he's not. But if he sees this at any time, please update us on what's going on with the FTX mediation. That would be the biggest news for all of these Voyager creditors that are out there waiting for another distribution. Because when you look at that 446 million, you're talking about 22.5% that could come back to us. That's making us whole. And that, if it came in the next couple of months, would put us in an excellent position for the halving event in the next bull run. So we really would love to know what's going on there. And so we may put in another phone call or maybe send some more emails like we did before to these guys to see what's going on. But as far as the FTX issue is concerned, there is no update in this document, as far as I can tell, at least nothing specific to FTX, just an extension of 180 days to object to more claims. The altcoins now are recovering, but be careful. The reason we talk about BTC when we talk about the market is that the altcoins follow BTC and they bleed more than BTC does when they bleed. And so when Bitcoin takes a downturn, which I fully expect it to do, I know AZcrypto is not totally on board with that, but I fully expect it to take a downturn through the holidays as people take profits to do whatever they want with that money. Go on a vacation, buy gifts, do whatever. They're going to take those profits and they're going to use them. And so as we hit this sort of holiday hole, as I like to call it, I hope that catches on, this little holiday hole, make sure that you've taken your profits, but make sure that you're also DCAing back into the projects that you love, because this will be the perfect time to set yourself up again for the halving event, for the bull run. There's still going to be more times. There's still going to be more dips. When we look at it, February is a super green month, and then March is another red month. And then we've got the halving event in April. So it's kind of up in the air what Bitcoin is going to do as we keep moving forward. But if we look at history, we can kind of track it through those months and see that that's what it's done historically and prepare ourselves at least for something similar. You know, a lot of the crypto people say that history doesn't always repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. And I don't necessarily think that it always looks exactly the same or even rhymes, but Bitcoin, at least in its infancy, at least in these first 10 to 20 years, is going to have to follow similar patterns, because there's just not that much money to stabilize this market the way that other markets are. And so I think that this is going to continue to follow similar patterns, not exact patterns. We'll have to keep an eye on it and keep it locked here on Teaching Crypto. We'll keep you updated. Now, I wanted to talk about emotions, and I got emotional in the last couple of days, and not in a bad way. Like I wasn't crying or something like that. I should be after buying this and then realizing I FOMO'd again. But let me go ahead and share the screen with you, and we will look at Media Token. Now, this is on the Solana network, and I saw the market cap on this thing, and the market cap when I saw it was like 5 million. And I went, oh my God, and I jumped on it because it was on Coinbase and I could grab it really easily. What I didn't pay attention to is that it had jumped a massive amount over the last 7 days. And I didn't even look at the charts. I didn't go in and say, hey, where is this token going after this huge pump? I just said, look at that market cap. I'm going to go ahead and buy it. And you have to protect yourself against those kinds of emotions in this market. It's one of those mistakes. It's one of those reasons why I call myself Mr. FOMO. And it's one of those things about this channel is I will share, and AZcrypto will share our mistakes. This is one of those mistakes that I made. I FOMO'd in without looking at the chart. You have to take into account everything. You can't let your emotions get in the way. And so what did I do? I backed out of the trade when it fell off too much. I had a point where I thought I was going to lose too much. Now I'm going to back out of this, leave it alone, and come back to it later because that market cap is attractive. 3.31 million. That's a fantastic market cap heading into the halving event in the bull run. So it's one that I'm going to keep my eye on, especially because it's on the Solana network. However, I got emotional and I FOMO'd in on this one and I lost a little bit on that trade. And so what I wanted to share with you is check your emotions at the door when you are trading. You know, it's easier said than done. But even if you see something that looks like a miracle, that looks like something that's your 100x ride that was just right there on Coinbase, just waiting for you to scoop it up, that doesn't mean that it is. And you could put yourself in a kind of a scary hole with a lot of these, you know, what they call them risky tokens, or I forget what Coinbase called it, but it was a risk, and that was a problem. And so that is one thing that I want to share with you is don't get excited and skip over your research like I did. Go in, make sure you do your due diligence before you pick these things up. Bobby Digital has a great point. I'm going to put that on the screen. What about the ETF? If the ETF hits, that breaks the history, right? There's never been a Bitcoin ETF. We don't have that in the US. So once there's a Bitcoin ETF that people have access to, that's going to break the historical chain, right? We're not going to see what's happened in November and December like we have before. There's going to be a lot of interest, but I have a feeling that crypto is going to be another one of those buy the rumor, sell the news. I think this was a lead up to it a little bit. We're going to have more of a lead up to it. Whenever that ETF hits, there's going to be a huge lead up because there's going to be a lot of buzz around it. And then once it hits, there's going to be a lot of people that take profits eventually. Maybe not right that day, but eventually after that, it's going to fall off. And so it's not going to send it straight through the roof. I don't think. AZcrypto disagrees with me. He thinks it's going to be a new frontier in Bitcoin and crypto. I hope that he's correct and everyone else is correct about that. But I have my reservations about this. And I've also heard some arguments as to why companies like BlackRock and bigger banks shouldn't have control of that much BTC, which I would also give some credence to. But yeah, the ETF changes the game, right? We're talking about history. We're talking about the last 4 or 5 Novembers and Decembers. There wasn't an ETF there. So if an ETF comes in, that changes the game and that takes history right out of it, right? And so that's great point, Bobby. Thanks for chiming in on that one. And I love that picture. Joe Dirt is fantastic, I think, is who you got there. But that's it for me today. Remember, AZcrypto should be back with us next show. But before we get going, make sure you hit that like and subscribe and click the bell notification so you get the latest from us at Teaching Crypto. And we will see you next time. Probably have a show Friday and hopefully have more of an update on the Voyager and FTX situation. See you next time.